The presentation this morning, there was several people who alluded to the idea of offering a balanced time, and I want to address that. Commissioner Walker in her presentation, I didn't find any fault with what the facts were as they were presented. It seemed pretty accurate, and she used 14 minutes in that time. Just specifically with that presentation, there's other times talking about it that I didn't include, but I was in advocacy in DC for 6 years, and so what you're doing when you're advocating is really minimizing the negative aspects of any issue and highlighting the positives. That's all advocacy is. You know, people give lobbyists a bad reputation. All you're doing is you're making your case, and people take it or leave it. What I do want to highlight is the fact that since 9:25 to 10:49, the majority of the time was spent on these ordinances. That's 84 minutes in advocating against them. So if she was 14 minutes and it was fairly factual based, people were given an opportunity to talk about these ordinances for 84 minutes. So was it as an organized fashion by one person? If there was time, and I would advocate for a presentation on the other side, it would be done by the Chief Petitioner who put who led the initiative process. That's who gets to pick. It isn't one of the 16 who entered an argument in the voters' pamphlet. That's not how this works. I would advocate that as Mr. Swift is the agent for that organization, if he so chose, I would give him 14, 15 minutes to advocate on the other side at a weekly business session that was televised and stuff. The problem is that I'm not going to regulate whether or not at the end of the day that it was factual what he presented. My original standpoint would have been to not address this at a structured weekly business session, for it to be a forum where Commissioner Walker and Chief Petitioner or whoever wants to sit on the other side could be unbridled in what they have to say, and the people could choose, because ultimately that's where the decision is going to be made. So, but that we didn't do that. I wasn't at the weekly business session, the meeting last week. I don't fault this process, but I would advocate that the balance of the time be given to the Chief Petitioner, Mr. Swift, for 14 or 15 minutes to have his opportunity. And so that's where I would sit as just a member of this board who did vote against them, but I do see a need, and I appreciate the code enforcement officers that we have out there, the neighbors of the properties that have to deal with this on a daily basis and have for decades. It is a problem. Is it as egregious as I was led to believe early on? Maybe not. I thought we were working with solid waste, not necessarily with planning violations. And there's a lot of information that's come out through this, and I don't think it's necessarily bad. I appreciate this process that we've been blessed to have the structure to facilitate. I just am hoping for a good outcome. That's my goal. As a result of this discussion, the election in November, and whatever takes place in between. So those are my comments for today. I haven't. Well, under the administrative calendar, I would make a formal motion to approve the balance of an equal time allotted to the Chief Petitioner for an opportunity to address the board on this issue at a weekly business session of his choosing in the future. Not to exceed 15 minutes. It was 14 to 15 minutes how much time Commissioner Water used. So.
I personally would prefer a 15-minute presentation by the petitioner, also a 15-minute response or side presentation by I'll volunteer her as Commissioner Walker, and also then a 5-minute rebuttal by each party, rather than just because, like you say, we've had 90 minutes of basically, all except with the exception of one person, of a negative side response, which I think is fair. But I would much rather have a time where there is the 15-15 and the 5-5 rebuttal.
So let me get this. Let me just try to clarify. So, given an opportunity for balance time, 15 and 15, and then 5 for each as a rebuttal.
Yes.
That kind of matches our land planning opportunity to testify. So there'll be an opportunity, if I can just amend my motion, for 5 minutes of equal opportunity for both Commissioner Walker and the Chief Petitioner to address, to readdress. So I'm amenable to that.
Okay, so you say 50 minutes for, 50 minutes against, 5 minutes rebuttal on each side?
Yes.
Yeah, I support that, I'll second that one.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Walker, you accept the request to provide I guess it would be just a survey level to the Chief Petitioner if he chooses to exercise his opportunity.
Sure.
Okay, great. Good old fashioned debate. Isn't this great? All right. It's been properly moved and seconded with no further discussion. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Heck?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker? No. Commissioner Hare?
Yes, motion carries 2-1.